Hello, and welcome to the D-Tools online webinar. My name is Jeff Oaks, and I'll be giving you the tour today. Before we dive in, just a quick overview or roadmap of what we're going to cover. We're going to start with a brief introduction to D-Tools, just so you know a little bit more about us as a company and what we do. We'll spend a bulk of our time really going through a tour of the software, showing you how the process works from beginning to end. And at the end, we'll review any questions that you may have about the software or implementation if interested. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So a little bit about D-Tools. For anyone that's not familiar with us, we've been around for a little over 20 years. In that 20 years, we've been working really with integrators primarily in the low voltage space. So that is a mix of commercial AV, security, also residential AV, security, networking, even some electrical as well. So we cover a wide range of low voltage contractors. We've worked a little over 6,000 companies in the last 20 years, and we also have direct partnerships with Microsoft with things such as Microsoft Office products and Visio. We also do fully integrate with AutoCAD and some other common accounting systems like QuickBooks. So some of the common pain points that we see that we'd love to solve is, we oftentimes see companies that have kind of a homegrown solution would be the best way to put it. You may have Excel or a spreadsheet or a database you build over here. You may have a drawing tool like AutoCAD, Visio, Bluebeam that you're using for the drawing side, and of course an accounting system, maybe something for scheduling. So the problem with that is, it does get the job done, but the issue is it's disconnected. So what ultimately ends up happening is you're doing double, triple entry or more. Things get miscommunicated, balls get dropped throughout the process. It's also not scalable. So if you're a growing business, one of the things you're probably struggling with is getting that new team member ramped up with all the different tools and different processes around that. So what we'll do today is show you how we can solve a lot of these common pain points through the D-Tools solution. So one of the big things that we do is estimation. So we have this huge library that you can download from, which we'll show you here today. You can go and download from millions of parts. We're updating thousands of products per week inside this library. And inside that database, we're tracking some basic things like descriptions. Of course, there's a place for your cost and price so you can calculate your margins. We're also tracking labor hours on all of the parts, so you have some standards for each item in the database. We'll do other things for you too, like produce contracts, scope of work documents. We do have fully customizable proposal templates, so we can make them look and feel however you want. So if you're satisfied with the output of your solutions right now, but it's just taking too much time, we can help mimic that for you so you can still get the output you're familiar with, but just save time and build in more accuracy with that. We also do have the ability to share all of our documentation online to make it a fully paperless process. So you can submit proposals, contracts, change orders through our online tool. The sales team gets notified that, hey, we've got a customer that's taking a look at the documents. We can get e-signatures. We can also do comments and history. It's all tracked through that tool. We also have a tool called Mobile Quote, which is an iPad app, which is really designed for doing a scope and budget out in the field. So with that initial site visit, you can go on site, put the customer's details in. You can also account for various site conditions as well, which will, allow you to bump up your labor times or bump them down. And you can get a quick scope and budget out in the field, which kind of gets things kick-started or allows you to have that budget conversation sooner in the process. Second thing we do is system engineering. So we do integrate fully with AutoCAD and Visio, the two industry standards. What's nice about this is you can just simply drag and drop from your product library, and we have all the shapes in there for doing rack elevations, floor plan drawings, wiring diagrams, even simple one-line drawings utilizing the pictures. Now, what's really nice about this is all tied in with the estimation side of D-Tools. So I can really build a project one of two ways. You can drag and drop an item into a bill of materials and then later drag and drop those onto a drawing when you're ready. Or a really powerful option is you can start with the drawing first. So I could lay things out on a floor plan. I can start building a wiring diagram, and that'll actually create my bill of materials, adds up my product pricing, adds up my labor, basically get a proposal built from doing a drawing. So You can visually build it, and the nice thing about this is the bill of materials and drawings are always connected. So you make a change in one place, it updates everywhere, which that's really important, especially when it comes to doing change orders. That's where a lot of things get slipped through the cracks, and margin starts to eat away on a project when change orders start to happen. So this allows you to keep that all synchronized throughout, so that way the drawings always match our equipment list, which is then later tied to purchasing and accounting and billing. So like I said, it gives you a nice integrated ecosystem here within the software. And the third thing we do is we also help with install and project management. So we do have mobile tools called Mobile Install, which is designed for install and service. So once the project's been won or awarded, you can take that project, you can schedule it out to your technicians out in the field, and some things they can do with that is they can track their time, they can mark items complete, we can log things like serial numbers or IP addresses on the device, take job site photos, also make site changes, and get a sign off from the customer or approval from someone on site. So once again, makes it a paperless process and a very seamless, easy user interface for the technicians to use. And we do have the tools for actually tracking service as well. So we can dispatch service calls, track what we did in the field, bring it back, and then push that out to the accounting system. So a lot of things that we've done are all purpose-built for what you do every day. So if you haven't used a system that's purpose-built for what you're doing every day, there's a lot that you're missing. Here's a few things here listed on the screen that we've designed and built just for integrators. We'll be showing you a lot of those things here today, and showing you how we can help you make your job a lot easier. So let's go ahead and jump into the online tour here and show you what dTools software is all about. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and move over to the software. So you should be able to see that now. So a good place for us to start, I mentioned earlier in the overview that we have a huge database, and that's a good place to start. The database is the heart of the system. So let's go here to the library. Show you what that looks like. Now we spend a lot of time, put a lot of resources on this library. We have our own internal data team, and we also have direct partnerships with over 200 manufacturers in the industry. As I mentioned earlier, we're usually adding anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 parts a week are being either added or updated here inside the library. So how it works is you come over here to the left, you search for the vendor or brand that you work with, and you can choose to download everything, or you can choose to download just specific part or model numbers. So it's up to you. If there is something that you need that we don't have, you can also request it up here at the top. Just let us know what you need, creates a ticket, and our team will happily build and add it for you, all as a part of the dTools service. In addition to our standard library, we do also have access to other options such as Portal.io that will allow you to tap into that library if you're a Portal user. And also for those in the security industry that are part of the PSA group, we also have a direct integration there where you can get your specific company pricing downloaded nightly if you like. So once you've downloaded your items, those items are going to get landed into what's called the catalog. So the catalog is your personal company database. That's going to consist of products, labor items, and packages. So let's go jump into the product section here, and let's show you what an item looks like here in the database. Now, when it comes to data, let me show you what we're tracking here. Let's go open up a part. Let's do this here. Now, I'm going to open up, this is actually an audio amplifier. The same fields though, if you're, let's say you're a security integrator or networking, the fields are the same across all the products. And I can even show you a few different disciplines as we go through this today. But just for now, we'll just grab a fairly straightforward product here, an amplifier. So this item has a manufacturer, model, category. What's also nice is we can link these items up to default systems. So if it's an access control part or surveillance part, or if it's an audio or video part, this allows you to present it that way to the customer, and you can even do breakouts of subtotals. It's also really helpful on the management side. So I can go in and take a look at, okay, what systems are we estimating or proposing to customers the most? Which systems are the most profitable for us? where we spend most of our labor on. So it gives you some nice business analytics through our dashboards area, which we can show you here later on. Of course, images, another important thing. We do allow you to show that image on the proposal. We can also include that into some of the simple one-line drawings that we can do. Product descriptions, another important piece. This allows you to present, descriptions with a product on a quote or proposal. We do a short and long description, so you can choose which level of detail that you want to use for this. And of course, you can always customize it. Now, when it comes to pricing, this is where your cost and your sale price will be set on the product. Now, when it comes from our library, you're not going to have costs with the items unless you're, working with some of those third-party databases we mentioned earlier. So a few different ways of getting your pricing in is we can take an Excel price sheet in for your initial setup, and we can also use that same Excel import as new price sheets come out. We can directly import those in. Just takes a few minutes, and you get all your product pricing updated here inside the library. We can also do what are called price rules. These are formulas that you can set up. And what's nice about this, you can say, okay, for this brand, my cost is 50% off the list. And you can also use this rule on projects as well. So if you get maybe a special discount on a product, you can knock an extra 5 or 10% off your cost. Or if the customer is getting a special rate or special deal, you can also knock it off the sell price. So that can come in quite handy, and all of that can be used for mass updating pricing in the database. We do support multiple price types, so if you do work with different types of customers, perhaps you do government like GSA or just have standard commercial customers, you can choose what type of customer that is, and that will preset the pricing so you're not having to go in there and look up pricing and apply discounts every single time. So you can see those here, and we can do up to 12 of those. Now we also have labor linked to the part. So one of the ways that we can calculate labor for you and eliminate mistakes and make sure you're accurately charging for your time is having labor hours associated to every part. Now, good news is we do start you off with an industry standard time on the item. You can use that if you want. You can always change that time if you want here. That's going to take that time and multiply it by your hourly rate. And you'll notice there's also a phase linked to the part too. So that will allow you to break down, okay, what do we need to order for this phase of the job? Allows you to look at the numbers by phase. Has a lot of good benefits there tied to this. So quick take a look at the calculation here. I'm just going to show you what happens in the background. So the parts price is pretty straightforward. We're selling it for $6,200 in this example. Labor, we've got our hour and a half. Multiply that by my hourly rate here. And we also give you the ability to build in other types of labor. So things like management design labor, you can allocate that into the system. You can choose, of course, to show that to the customer, or that can just be internal, but it does allow you to, allocate a little bit of time for every install hour for these common other types. So that's there. And then we've got the ability to do ordering. So purchase orders can be done through dTools, and we can also push that information out to other systems. You can set your preferred vendor. You can also set order quantities, so it does the math for you, which is extremely helpful for things like cable. We do track specifications. Now, this is getting more into the engineering data. We're tracking dimensions, so when we drag and drop this into a rack, we can make sure it's going to fit properly, or if we drag it onto a plan. We also have power and heat ratings. So based on, let's say, building up a rack, it'll tell you how much power and heat we're getting off of that. We can also get the weight. So a lot of times people are doing that off to the side manually, so you get that quick calculation with just a few clicks. Also, inputs and outputs, another important piece of data. We do put this in here and track this so that way you can drag and drop items on the page, do a very quick wiring diagram. Now, not only does it speed up the drawing process, but it's actually going to create things like wire checklist or connection reports for you based on that for the install team. We're also in this whole process creating all your wire numbers, and we even create wire labels. So we do work with most of the common electronic labeling machines, so you can just transfer your labels to the machine, and then you got your labels ready to go. So just one way we can save you hours on the install side of things with just that feature alone. We also have accessories. So these are other items that you may typically use with the installation. This is a great way to avoid mistakes of missing parts or pieces. So if you're forgetting things like a power supply or a mount or a cable, you can have that set up here to either be added automatically, or this can just be a reminder that pops up on the screen for you. And this doesn't have to be just parts, it can also be labor. So on this item here, I've got programming labor, so I'll get reminded of programming, and I can always set the number of hours I want per application. Now, alternates is another nice feature. This allows you to show the customer alternatives. So if you've ever wanted to show somebody an upgrade or downgrade option, maybe you want to go from a standard fixed bullet camera on the security side to a PTZ camera, you can show the price difference for doing that. Or if you're putting a display or TV in a conference room, you want to show, okay, what's it going to cost to go from 60 to 70 inch? So it allows you to show those options without having to build 2 or 3 different quotes as a part of the process. And really the last major thing I just wanted to hit on here is find a project. So this gives you the historical data on the item. So we know how many of these we've sold. We know what our average cost, what our average sell price, what our average labor was on the products. Makes it very handy if you have a recall on an item, you go find all those customers that we put that in. A few clicks, we can show you all the customer items here, and we can push that out. Maybe if you want to go back and do an upgrade campaign, you can certainly use this tool for that. So all some really handy, useful information. Everything's there, and if there's something that you need that's not there, we do have custom fields. So you can go plug in additional information that you want to track. So that's a little bit on the product data. I know we spent a few minutes on that, but it's really good to know what's in the background because that helps explain everything we're going to get into here next. Now, before we dive into building a project, I do want to show you just another feature on the database, which is called packages. So packages are basically pre-built systems or assemblies. These can be good, better, best scenarios. Could be, 4, 8, 16 camera packages, conference room packages, multi-room audio packages. Could be something as simple as a plate. So to kind of show you what a package looks like, a package has a name. They can be organized into folders. They also have all the individual items in there. So this first and foremost is going to save me time. I'm not having to recreate the wheel over and over again. It also allows me to not show as much detail on the customer-facing side of things. To be honest, customers really don't care about how many back boxes and how many keystone jacks and plates we have in here. So I can just show them, hey, we've got 64 of these plates throughout the project. We still have all the detail though of what we need to order and what we need to deliver to the job site, but we're not overwhelming, your customer or client with too many details here. So another nice little benefit there to help speed things up and simplify the process. So let's go build a project. Let's show you how all this stuff comes together, and we'll go in here and create a new project. Okay, so when we start our new project here, first thing we need to do is we need to select our client. Now, if they're already in your dTools database, you can choose them here from a drop-down, and we do have a full client and contact database and vendor database inside the system. If they're not in there, of course, you can create a new one, and we do also import from other programs like Outlook and QuickBooks. We're going to put in a project name here, so let's go ahead and call this webinar. Now, there's different statuses of projects. Now, you can define what these statuses are called, and I've got my first step is lead, then discovery, then estimating. So this kind of helps you really keep track of what's in your pipeline, so you keep tabs on things here. And this also can factor into some of the dashboards that we offer in the system. Price types, as I mentioned earlier, you can choose which price tier that you want to use for this project, so you can adjust that there from the default. We're going to go ahead and slide over to the next step, which is going to be contacts. Now, in addition to the customer themselves, there may be some other contacts you're going to be working with. This could be other trades, architects, electricians, general contractors. So if you want to add or import those in, you can. Just makes it handy for everybody that's touching the project. You've also got your address details, your site and billing address. Got tax rates here, so you can set your tax rates. Now, we do have a feature coming out here shortly where you'll be able to, when you enter the address, it can also do a live tax lookup and apply the appropriate tax. So just take a little bit of the guesswork and speed things up for you with that. You've also got project resources. So this is one of those optional things. If I want to add any other people on my team to the project, I can go through the list here and tag them. Now, this can really be used also as an organization tool, but also as a permissions-based tool. So if I only want people that are on this project to see it or access it, we can do that. The next is our scope of work. Now, at this stage, you may not know the full scope. So any of this stuff I'm going through, once again, you can always go back and edit it or change it. Now, to make the scope of work process go a little faster, we have a thing in here called snippets. So snippets are prefabricated descriptions that you can set up. So I can go in and say, okay, we're doing some audio, we're doing surveillance, access control, signage. So I'm just kind of going through the list here and choosing a few different systems that we're going to be offering. This will give me some standard text to work with. You can create your own. You can always edit this once it's in there. So this gives you some consistency across the team, but also, once again, keeps you from having to go, copy and paste and look up things you may have done before. Next is our locations. So this is where we can go in and identify all the locations that we're going to do for the project. Now, we do have the ability to go in and quickly check off all the different areas and locations that we're going to work with. We do have the ability to also work from templates, so you can actually save templates inside the program and lay them out however you want. So just kind of speed things up, I'm going to drop a template I already have in there. Now, keep in mind, once you drop it in here, you can always edit the names, you can always reorganize the layout. And we do support multiple tiers. So if you do projects that are multi-site or multiple floors, you can identify the site name, the building name, the floor name, the room name. And as you can see, I can even go down to the rack level. So it's optional, just depends on how deep you want to go with this. So next, we're going to get into our payment terms. So we're going to go ahead and set what percentages due. We can put a date on it if we want. And this can be changed, and also this can be templated. So once again, you're not having to go in and recreate the wheel. So you can have different options stored inside the database. And then lastly is custom fields. So if there's anything else you want to track or keep tabs on, this is where you can enter that data. So I put a few common things people use this for. One is building code, Wi-Fi password. So once you put this in, this can be shared with the install team out in the field, as well as anybody using or touching the system can access it as needed. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's go ahead and dive into our project here. So there's really two ways we can go about building out our project inside of DTools. So one is we can start with our bill of materials first, or we can start with the drawing first. Just depends on how you want to go about jumping into it here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start with the bill of materials here first, and just add a few items on this side, and then later, we'll go back to the drawing side and I'll show you can add stuff there. So you kind of get a feel for how it works both ways. So good place to start. I'm going to show you, there's our locations that we just set up. You can always go back and edit those if you need to. You've got 3 databases you can pull from. You've got your product database, your labor database, and your package database. So you can grab, drag, and drop from either one of those. So let's pull out the individual part list here. Let's go ahead and lock that down. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's go ahead and start dragging and dropping items into this project. So we'll go over here to the left, and I'm just going to, since we went through one of the products earlier, I'm going to use that same part just since we saw the details on it, so you kind of see how it relates here to the job. So let's go grab this part, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into rack 1. Now, because I added that into the project, it's now asking me, do I want to include programming labor, and do I also want to include event panel? So I can go ahead and add those in there. Okay, so that'll now add the main part along with the 2 accessories into the project. Now you'll notice that the pricing at the top says installation price. That's with equipment and labor combined for that. So let's go get a few other items here. Now, the good thing about this search is, of course, if you know the model number or part of it, you can easily type that in and it'll find it. You can also really search on any other fields you want. So descriptions, categories, keywords. So let's say if I just want a speaker, I can just type in the word speaker, narrows down my list. I can type in a brand name, narrows it down even further. And then if I want to put something, let's say if it's a camera, a speaker, a plate, if I want to put this into the project and it goes in multiple locations, I can just simply select where I want it to go over here on the right. So let's do a few different locations here. So I've got 4 areas selected, and I'm just going to drag and drop this item into that. So it's going to prompt us for a few other items. So we've got our ceiling bracket or enclosure, as well as our, my preferred cable here, got a 16.2 cable. Now, since we're dealing with what we call a bulk wire, so any wire that you're cutting to length, we give you the option to adjust or change that wire length. You can also set a head in for the cable where it's sourcing from. So that now drops in there. If you do wire a little differently, you can also just drop, cable in by the spool, and then later on we can break it out into runs. So either way will work. So we've got a few items here into the project. So to kind of show you what's going on here in the grid, we can take a look here at our product list. Everything I've got organized by location. You can also do this by system or by phase, so a few different ways of viewing it. There's also the ability to create your own custom layout. So the thing I like about this is, everybody's brains work a little different, and we like to see things a little different. So each person can actually customize their own view up here and actually pick what columns they want to see. There's literally over 100 fields that you can view here on each item, so you can kind of pick and choose what you care about, and you can ignore the rest. We've also created some predetermined layouts that are focused on certain things like price or specs or ordering or install, so you can also use those if you want. Pricing can be easily adjusted. So if I want to go into an item here, let's say change that to 5,500, now you're going to see your margin of markup changes immediately based on that. You can also do it the other way, change your margin, that changes your sell price. So you can make your adjustments. It will warn you, if there's things like, zero or negative margin, if there's no cost on it, if there's no sell price, if there's no labor on it, some of those common things that may get missed, there's a little warning system built in too to catch you from those mistakes. So once you put your items in, from here, we can go build a drawing. We may want to go run some reports. So it's up to you. Let's go show you how the reports work. Now we've got a lot of different templates in here that you can choose from. So on the client side here, we can go into proposal template, and you can do those with or without images. So if I want to do one with images and maybe show it by location, just take a click there, and this will take what we put into this project and compile it together for us into a quick proposal. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, you can customize this information. So if you want to see it laid out differently, if you want to put your own graphics in here, you can. Also, things like images on the cover page, that can be changed or set as you need it for each project. So this one I'm showing a breakdown here by location. Now on this one, I'm not showing some of the details. I'm not showing the model numbers. I'm not showing line item pricing. So you can turn that stuff on and off. It really just comes down to your preference. You may also not care to show the accessories, the add-on items that go with it. So you can turn that off if you want to shorten this up a bit. And of course the pictures, those can be turned on and off as well. So with this, we can see here, we've got a breakdown of our labor. And you can see it's not quite as common to do the labor here like this, but this one breaks it down here by phase. And you can always, choose to show labor as a single line item. You can also, not show labor at all. I mean, you may just want to show installation price separate, so you can do that. So, and of course, at the bottom, you get a place to sign. Now, you can take it a step further. You can actually create what's called a report group. So a report group in here, let me show what that looks like. That's actually a combination of multiple documents that we have here inside the system. So this one I'm going to run will have a cover page like we saw earlier, but it's also going to include an introduction about our company. It's going to include a scope of work. It's going to include, of course, a parts list or item list, and then also it'll have a contract at the end. So you can kind of pick and choose, doesn't have to be just one template. You can have multiple templates, maybe depending on the type of customer or size of project. You may have different detail you show, but there's our cover sheet. And then we also have in here, we've got our company profile. We've got our scope of work here. We've got our breakdown here by location, so you can see what that looks like. And this one's done by location and also by system, so you can do that either way. You'll see the pricing and model numbers are back on this particular document that I'm showing. There's a little more simplified summary, so we can see equipment, labor, and tax. And then this finishes off here with the contract. So this can have your verbiage or your terms and conditions in there, your payment schedule. And all this can be sent through our customer portal to be e-signed and reviewed online. We also can PDF this, send it via Word, Excel. We can also directly push out via Outlook. So a lot of different ways of delivering this to the customer. There's also some really good management reports in here that breaks down your cost and profitability in detail. We also have installation reports, which I'll come back to in just a moment. But if I want to take maybe a quick glance at the numbers here, you can either view this information as a report, or you can view it in here in the grid. But this shows me a breakdown here of our equipment totals. We can see how many labor hours and labor charges are in there, and then we can also see our overall project numbers there. So that's just a little bit there on the reporting side. So very quick and easy to add the stuff in here, drag and drop your parts in, get your reports, submit it to the portal here if you want for approval, or we may want to go to a drawing as our next step, which is what we're going to do now. So let's go ahead. I'm going to save this and close it out. So now we're going to take this project and we're going to go up here and we can do a drawing in either AutoCAD or Visio. Really comes down to your preference. You can actually use both tools if you want. Sometimes people do simple one-line drawings or pre-sales drawings in Visio, and they do their as-built stuff like in AutoCAD on the floor plan. So it doesn't matter. You can do it either way. Now this grid you see here is actually all of your projects that you have open. We do have some pre-built filters where you can take a look at, by a particular client if you want. You can also organize this information here by stage if you want by dragging the fields up. And all of your project data is stored here. So I can see any drawing files. I can see anything else I want to upload, like job site photos, programming files, emails, references. Everything could be there in one spot. And of course, you see all this other stuff too, which we'll dive into in just a minute. So let's go up here just for today. Let's go jump into Visio and let's go show you what that looks like. I'll show you a little bit of AutoCAD as well, just for the AutoCAD users. It really works the same though in either solution, so we won't spend too much time on going through everything on both. But we'll go ahead and pull this up here in Visio. Now this is working directly in Visio as well as it's also working directly in AutoCAD. So you're still using, if you're using Visio or AutoCAD, still the same tool, just linking data and reports to it now, and a bill of materials. So let's go up here to the view button and let's go turn off that grid. Now, one of the little time savers we do is we do create a title frame for you. So this will pull in your company information, your customer details get populated, all the page numbers and names all get created for you. Now there's 4 types of drawings that you can do. We can do line drawings, we can do elevations, we can do plans, and we can do schematics. So let's give you a little brief example of what each of those look like here inside the system. So if I want to do maybe a line drawing, that's a really good pre-sales drawing, doesn't require a bunch of work, and it's very simple and easy to follow. Now, in addition to the Visio screen that opened up, of course, you'll notice there's a details menu on the left, and there's also another window that opened up in the background called the project editor. Now that screen may look familiar. It's the same screen that we were just in a few moments ago. So it does open up side by side with the drawing. And it is a lot easier if you have 2 monitors or a large screen, because then you can split it and you can just drag and drop from one screen to the other. So to kind of demonstrate it, I'm going to do a little split screen here just so you can see what it looks like in both areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this amplifier. I'm just going to click it from my bill of materials, and I'm going to drag and drop it onto my line drawing. And you're going to see that now added the item to the drawing page. Now on the left over here, you're going to notice there's a little symbol that showed up, a little Visio icon. So that lets me know that that item is on the drawing page. Good thing is I can't add it again. So if I've already got it on the drawing page, if I try to drag it over, it won't let me do it. So good news is you can't put more in the drawing than you have in the project. So it's a little safety measure in place. Let's go grab a couple other items here. Let's grab a cable and a speaker and cable, drag those over. And then once again, this is going to drop some items here on the page. So just so you can see a little better, we're going to zoom in, place the items where we want. And like I said, this is not a very detailed drawing, just using pictures, very simple, very high level. Now, as a part of this, you can also remove the model numbers just like you can on the proposals. You can also, do some other changes here too, like show the location names on the devices. So a lot of little right-click functionality built right into it. So that's one type of drawing that you can easily build with the system. And as I mentioned earlier, you could start with doing a drawing first. So if I wanted to just start dragging stuff on this page, this will start to create that bill of materials based off my layout. So let's go to our elevation views. This is where you would typically do maybe a front or side view. So racks, showing something on a wall. Let's go over here and drag a few things in. Now, we didn't actually put a rack into our bill of materials yet, so let me show you how I can add something to the drawing and the bill of materials all at the same time. So let's go put something in rack 1 and 2, and we're going to go find a rack. Okay, so we'll do a quick search here. So I found my item, and I'm just going to drag and drop that right into the drawing. Okay, so this is going to add the racks here to the drawing as we see. But now if I go back over to my bill of materials, I'm going to see that those racks are now there. Our price has gone up and also our labor as well. Now, if this was a project that had already been signed off and agreed to by the client, what would have happened is that would have prompted us for a change order. So it would have said, hey, this project's been approved. You now need to create a change order. And so we can track those change orders as internal or external. So we have a really good dialed-in process for that. So let's go grab a couple items here. Let's go drag those into the rack. So let's see what that looks like. So there's our device. So if this is an NVR, if it's amplifier, processor, server, drag and drop it in, make sure it's going to fit properly where it needs to go. If you don't like the graphical detail here, you can also do just an outline of the shape. So we can do that. But the big thing is it is the scale. So what you see here is what you're going to get. So there's no surprises, when it comes install time. So that's an example of what the elevation side looks like. We also have a plan view. This is one of the more common drawings. So we can drop in either a AutoCAD floor plan. We can also drop in a PDF. We've actually created a PDF conversion tool for Visio. And what's nice about that, let's go ahead and drop this in here. It'll take your PDF, it'll actually scale it for you, and also vectorize it so it doesn't lose, any of that, doesn't get grainy or gets kind of rough to follow on the page when you zoom in, so it keeps it real sharp. You can also turn your layers on and off as well, which is another big deal. So treats the PDF more like a CAD file would be. Let's go zoom in here to a room. Now, with this, we can just, once again, same steps. Let's go grab a item here, drag and drop it onto the page. And this will bring out the shapes or blocks if you're in CAD for that particular layout. Now we have all the industry standard icons in our database. JStandard for the AV side, SIA for security, NFPA stencils for the fire side. We even have the NECA standards for electrical as well. So, and this brought out the amplifier since we had that connected on our previous drawing. And you'll see everything is already tagged and numbered for you. The wire number is already placed on the cable. My cable is also color coded. I have my audio cable set as blue. So there's a lot of automations that's happening here, and this would have normally taken me just a few minutes to do just that, and that just took a couple seconds. So you start to multiply that out for every connection, every wire, every device. This easily can save you hours on a project. And once again, this drawing is all tied back to your bill of materials. And then lastly is our schematic view. This is where you get into a little bit more detail. This is where you can show how a system is wired and connected. Let's go drop this out onto the page here and show you what that looks like. Now this input-output detail, this is going to allow us to make some specific connections to ports on the devices. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. So what I'm going to do is let's just make a real quick connection to this speaker. I'm going to take, let's go ahead and take that cable out for now. Now this cable here that brought it out, this is actually the cable that we'd used on our previous page. So I went ahead and brought that snap to the top on both ends. Now our system does track wire audits as you're building this. So if you try to connect a cable differently on one page than it's connected on another, it's going to make you fix it. So there's no conflicting information and confusing the install team out in the field trying to figure out okay, which one is this supposed to go to? So keeps you in check once again. Drag and drop, place things where you want. We can even remove IOs that we're not using on the device to save space on the page. And this actually is building a nice detailed wire connections report for us in the background based on what we've done here. So got 4 different drawing types you can work with. It's all drag and drop, really as easy as it gets. As you can see, all the tagging and numbering is all there. And if I want to go and change a part, this will change it on every drawing, every document, even down to the label. So think about every time you do a change now, how many times you're having to change that specific part. It's a lot. So this keeps it all tied together to save you time and avoid mistakes. So let's go ahead and save that. Then we'll go ahead and move on here. I'm going to show you just a real quick for the AutoCAD users that are joining us to show you how this works in AutoCAD, just to show you that it does work equally as well on the CAD side. It's all drag and drop. We've also built some additional enhancements to AutoCAD that you'll like if you're a CAD user. One specifically is a common annoying thing, having to move devices around and redraw lines. We've got that problem solved for you, which once again adds up to hours of savings on every project inside of here. So as you know, AutoCAD is not the fastest program to launch up, so it's going to open up here. And once AutoCAD launches, you're going to see our DTools plugin launch up inside of it. So we can drag and drop from the existing bill of materials that we did here earlier in Visio. Now, one really nice thing too about this is we do integrate AutoCAD and Visio together onto a single platform. So what that means is if I make a change to a product on my CAD drawing, if I have any Visio drawings connected to it, it'll also update there. So I can, it doesn't have to be just all AutoCAD or all Visio. You can do a mix of platforms on a particular drawing. So if you've got different outputs you're looking for, or maybe you have 2 people on the team that use different, like using different tools, you can still work together and collaborate. So what I'm going to do here, just to quickly demonstrate what we did earlier, I'm going to go grab my parts that we dropped on there, and we're going to drop it into AutoCAD. So exact same steps, as you'll see, pretty much looks very similar to what we just had over on the Visio side. We just move our blocks around. The cable, just like before, is auto numbered. And you can even set color coding for it, just like over in Visio. So there we go. So now we can see what our connection looks like. And if I move my block around, you'll see cable follows it. So I'm not having to redraw all those lines just for a single move. So that's a big pain if you don't have a feature that can do that with your AutoCAD. So that'll save you quite a bit of time there. So that is, a little bit on the drawing integration. So once again, tied into the bill of materials, changes happen everywhere. So huge time savings and big error eliminator with that. So let's now take it out to the final steps. Now we're going to go ahead and push this out for installation. We'll just spend a couple of minutes on that. Some of the things we're not really getting into in too much detail in today's webinar is revisions and change orders. We're not really going to go through purchase orders today, but we can do all of those things. If you'd like to see that more information, do suggest setting up a personal online tour with us. We can dive into whatever details you want with that. We also do task and service orders. So let's take this project that we built. Let's go ahead and mark it as approved. This is going to go ahead and move it to the 1 status. It's going to lock down their project. So as I mentioned earlier, once it's approved, if somebody tries to make changes, we're going to make those changes be tracked, so nothing can be snuck in there. So let's go create a task here. So task is now we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and create a task for our install team. We're going to have them go out and install some items. So I'm just going to come in here. We'll call this install stuff as the name. We're going to jump down here to our notes section. So if you want to drop any notes in for this, this can be those fields we put in earlier on the project, like a Wi-Fi password or building code. We're also going to drop in some parts here. Now this could be parts and or labor that needs to be done, like programming. So let's go in here and do this. So this is going to show us all of the parts here on the project. Now, if you've got a huge list, the filters come in quite handy. I can come up here and say, you know what, let's go out and do just the rack. Or maybe when we want to go out and do just the speakers. Or you can go do it by phase. This is one of the common ones you can do. Okay, let's just do the pre-wire rough-in phase. So real easy to pull out what you need to. This is, once again, the advantage of having that data in there. So let's go do the speakers, select them all, and add them in there. Okay, so now I've got this set up. Now down at the bottom right, it says 10 hours. That's how much time it's estimated to take for that. So that's feeding from that labor time on all the parts in the database. So that not only helps you with labor estimating for the proposal side or sales side, but it also ties into the scheduling piece. We're going to go into my resources here. We're going to go select who's going to work on it. We'll do Jeff and Joey. And I'm going to apply the hours to their schedule. So it's going to split it up 5 hours each based on that. I'm going to probably change my install date. Let's have them do it on the 22nd. And I'm going to also have it computer in time. So we're going to do that here. Okay. So that's all been set. We're now ready to go ahead and push this out, which we can do via Outlook or Google, or you can just push it directly through our mobile install tool. Now, as this goes out to the technician, you may also want to share some other documents. You can also attach copies of drawings or any other files that you want for them to view on site. Okay, so that's now published this to mobile install. And mobile install, once again, is our mobile tool designed for techs that are doing install or service, or even project managers. So what I'm going to do, let me go venture over here to my email, and then we'll go ahead and open up this work order here. Okay, so I've got the task I've set up. I can now dive right into it, and let's go view it and work on it. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up. Now, this is going to open up in a browser, and what I'm going to do is log in here. Okay. Now, you have standard users and admin users, that's there. All right, so now what we're going to do is jump in. Actually, I logged into the wrong account. It's the downside of having multiple accounts here, so let me just change that here. I'm not on my laptop. Let's do this other one here. All right. Got to put my password in. Log in there. Okay, so taking a look here, so one of the things we see here immediately is a dashboard. Now this whole screen is going to adapt to the device you're working with. So right now I'm on a standard desktop screen. If I'm using a smartphone, it's going to change the layout to look and feel like an app natively on that device. So it'll always adapt to what you're working with. It's a responsive website. We also have a calendar here, so I can see my schedule of what's going on. If I'm a manager on the team or project lead, I can also look at other people's schedules here. And then here is the one that we just set up. So I'm just going to click on it here in the calendar, and we're going to dive into it. Now, one of the things that you can do, you'll see at the top right, there's the ability to start and stop work. So this allows me to track my time via a timer. You can also do a manual entry inside the system for that. It shows me the details of who it's for, where it's at, Google Maps integration for directions. We got our item list. This is all the items here that need to be installed. So this actually functions as both a pick list and an install checklist. So I can go through and I can mark items here as picked for loading them up. And I can also go back and mark items as installed. So the install will mark it with a date. It also, you can put in things like IP addresses, serial numbers, MAC addresses. We also have some nice filters where you can filter down to a specific location just to focus on a particular area. Now, big thing with this actually is all sending this feedback through the web back to the software. So we know what's been installed, who installed it. We can track our actual time versus our estimated time. So it's all happening in the background. Of course, in a perfect world, nothing else would need to be changed on site, but we know that's going to happen. So whether it's a product that we need to add internally or it's something that the customer requested, you can always come in here and add additional product or labor to the job. Now, once they do that, there's going to be an approval required here, which is going to show us what's been installed, what's been added on site, and then we can also get a quick signature electronically. So that, once again, that signature will get date and time stamps with it. We can also keep a full history of site notes, so we can make some quick notes here as we go. Shows the date and timestamp, can also send email alerts with it. You can take photos from the field, so this is where you can pull out your phone, snap a few photos. And these photos, they can also have notes along with them. So if you want to show what's brief description of maybe some damage that was on site or any special install notes, we can say, let's put done there. Okay, that'll upload and save with the project. And then once we're done, I'll just hit stop on my timer. We'll say room 1 was done. And that's all being stored in a timesheet. We can also, as I mentioned earlier, do a quick entry. If I want to enter a number of hours or a start and end time, this will also log here to the project. So this is what the team uses for installs. This is also what they use for service. There's a whole service area here as well. So when you go back into the software part of it, we do have a place called resource hours. So this is where you can keep tabs on what's happening out in the field. Let's go take a look at, let's say, the last 12 months, and let's go look at all projects. So we have some different filters in place. You can look at, what work have we done for this particular client over this period of time. We can look at how we're doing or how we did on a particular project. We can also look at, specific technicians or resources on the team. And here we can see, estimated versus actual times. And we also break it down into dollars based on that person's rate that you can put in the system. And if I click on a person's name, I can see every single thing they did, whether it's install or service. I can go in and see all the individual results and stats there based on that. So this gives you a nice little big picture dashboard of what's happening labor-wise and labor costing-wise. We also have inside the scheduling area a place where you can view all your tasks and service orders, and we also have a calendar. So this is what you use commonly for scheduling and managing what's happening here on the project. So once again, just choose whose calendars or schedules you want to see. You can look at it on a day, week, or month basis. And you can always move things around here on the schedule very easily as needed. We do produce a timeline view, so if you do want to look at multiple schedules side by side, it makes it a little easier to see and adjust those as you need to. Okay. And then really the last major thing I'll show you here before I wrap up on the overview is the dashboard. So using the system day to day, it's a lot of good data and analytics that we're tracking here for you. If I want to go in and take a look at my sales pipeline, we can go in here and do that. And you can look at this in a column or bar chart. You can also do a pie chart. So I'll just kind of break out and look at the stats here, however you want, and also a quick table. We can also look at product and project and labor profitability. Okay, what is making us the most money? What's losing us money? Where are we not making as much money as we anticipated? Let's zero in on that and get that solved. Also, product usages. What products are we using the most? Which ones are we using the least? What vendors or brands are we utilizing the least? Maybe we need to cut those and focus on the other ones. So it gives you some really good business insights into what's happening. These are just some of the stock ones that we have, but you can go in and create your own and lay them out how you want to. So just like I said, another nice little feature as a part of the D-Tool solution. So that's pretty much wraps up what we cover in a general overview like we did today. So we showed you how we can integrate the estimation and sales process and with the engineering design process all the way down into the install and project management side of things. So all those are very key components of running any integration business. So we can link them all together, which for most of our clients, that usually can save, at least 30 to 50% time on projects from start to finish. And we'd love to talk to you more personally about that and how we might be able to impact your business. So what I'm going to do with the last remaining few minutes here, I'm going to open it up for questions. If anyone wants to ask any questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you. If that's everything that you had for today, I really appreciate your time, and we hope to speak with you again here shortly. Okay. All right, got a few questions here. So one of the questions is about pricing. So pricing, it does vary quite a bit. Depends on really the number of users, how many users are in the software versus out in the field. Has anyone used the software before? So there's really three components to pricing. We have the software pricing, which is, one-time We do also have our program called Software Assurance, which is a recurring monthly or annual, and that's going to cover you on all your future upgrades. It's also going to cover you on phone or technical support with remote help. It's going to cover access to our full product library and updates. And it's also going to include a copy of a mobile install license. You'll get one mobile license for every software license. So that's another part of the pricing. And then the third, and one of the important things to you is training and implementation. So, having a great tool like this is it's the first step, but then we need to be properly trained on how to maximize the use of it. So we do offer various training and implementation options where it can really be as turnkey as you want it to be. And we can help you get this rolled out with our 10, 15 plus years experience that we have on our professional services team. So all that to say, let's have a personal conversation with you on that, just to make sure we get you the right mix of everything that makes sense for you. A good question. Yep. So we'll reach out to you after the webinar. Let's see here. Another question was about training. So, yeah, as I mentioned, training and implementation is an important thing about rolling out a system like this. Obviously, it's a powerful solution that's going to save you thousands and many, many hours over the course of the year. But with that, you do need to learn how to use it, and we can show you the best practices, tips, and tricks. So we have different formats for training. We do offer online training, so we can do either personal one-on-one sessions with you, which works really great. We also have on-site training where we'll come out to you, maybe spend 3 to 5 days with you and the team face-to-face and help with training and setup. And then, on top of that, we have weekly webinars. We teach 2 classes a week that you're always more than welcome to jump into and attend. And we also have our online e-learning platform, so you can always jump online and take some of our video training tracks if you want. And we do have regional trainings as well. We do those throughout the world, so you can always check our website for the latest scheduled training events. Those are usually 3 days. You can feel free to jump in on those too. So lots of good training and implementation options there for that. Yep. And another question was on Visio and AutoCAD, which version? So we do work with Visio 2010 or up, including the 365 subscription. And then for AutoCAD, it's going to be AutoCAD 2010 and up, full versions for that. So we've been working with those solutions, Visio for a little over 20 years, AutoCAD for a little over 12 years now. So really good tight integration, always making improvements based on suggestions to that. Which does bring up a point, we do make quite a few, upgrades and improvements throughout the year. That's all really coming from feedback from users like yourself. So if there's something, that you'd like the system to do or suggestions for improvement, we're all ears. That's how we continue to make this better and make our clients more and more successful. So feel free to pass on that feedback for any existing users or new users coming on board. Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions I see for now. Of course, you may have some questions after the webinar. Feel free to send those over to us. You can reach us at sales@d-tools.com. We'll also be reaching out to everyone personally that joined in today just to make sure you got all your questions and everything that you need covered. And we really appreciate your time today. Hopefully you found this helpful. And if we're not working with you now, hopefully we have the opportunity to help and help serve you along with other thousands of customers that we've worked with over the years. Thanks a lot and have a great rest of your day.